How's it going, everyone? What's going on? It's Kyle Henderson of Bama Football on YouTube. I hope you had a fantastic Thanksgiving. Thank you very much for joining me today on Friday, November 24th. Want to talk about a couple topics, and we'll jump right into it. We're going to bring on Coach Shawn to the show. And Coach Shawn, man, what's up, man? How you been? Happy Thanksgiving to you. And, look, the people want to talk about it. Let's talk about it. Everything is starting to kind of trend into this transfer portal world. I mean, like, we have the Iron Bowl, but people want to talk about it. So let's talk about it. Evan Stewart is a wide receiver at Texas A&M. They're starting to be smoked that he's going to enter the transfer portal. This was first reported by On3. In fact, they said that they don't even expect him to make the trip to LSU. And then they said potential landing spots could be Alabama, Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, teams that have elite wide receivers currently. Coach, what is your initial thought on right now, kind of these rumors that are circulating, and talk about Evan Stewart?
Man, listen, this is huge. If people remember, Evan was, I think Bama was in his final three schools,
Mm-hmm.
and for this kid to be leaving Texas A&M, wow, that is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a need thing? I'm not necessarily sure, but a talent like this, you cannot deny. You cannot turn this
Mm-hmm.
kid down if he wants to come to Alabama. This kid is electric, a good route runner. Comes out of his breaks extremely well. I mean, this kid reminds me of several receivers we've had in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Very very smooth, like Devontae Smith, in and out of his breaks, explosive, smart. So you can't turn a kid like this down. You can't turn a talent like this down. A need thing, I don't really know. Being we have Kendrick, we have Isaiah, we have Emmanuel coming up, we have all these young guys coming up, but Evan Stewart is just as talented as these guys. So
Mm-hmm.
you definitely got to open the door for that.
I was when I was kind of trading notes with you in the pre-show, and we are talking about Evan Stewart. I mean, a couple things. I mean, this is important to know. He hasn't even
Mhm.
entered the NCAA transfer portal. He's expected to, based off sources that are close to the situation. Look, a lot of people have scoop on the situation, and this is what we're rolling with. People are already starting to talk about it. I'm sure that this isn't the first place that you've heard about Evan Stewart, but if it is, what we're doing is trying to make sense of it all. If it does go on in the next week or so. So Evan Stewart, he was a 5-star, went to Texas A&M, and we've talked about this before. The Texas A&M wide receivers, obviously elite. Musu Muhammad, Anaya Smith, Evan Stewart, those guys were absolutely ballers that tested and challenged Alabama's secondary earlier this year. Now, with everything that happened with Jimbo Fisher and the buyout, who's going to take over Texas A&M, do you want to be part of that next rebuilding process if you are Evan Stewart? Do you want to go somewhere else and link up with, a team that clearly has continued to roll at the tops of college football, and that is Alabama? And I think when you're Evan Stewart, you kind of look to what, the route that other receivers, Jamison Williams, or you look to, Jermaine Burton and what they've been able to
Mhm.
do coming to Alabama, and how they've been able to elevate their game, and not only elevate their game, but elevate their brand to get into the ultimate, which is the NFL, right? Which program can get you to the NFL? And I think that's what Alabama can still do, is get you to the NFL playing on Sundays. I mean, the NFL is almost built by Bama. You see it every single weekend. But does it make sense? And would it make sense? And then I want to pose this to you as well. And thanks for the super chat, Gavin. I appreciate it. Sup, Kyle and Shawn. One thing people haven't said is Missouri's number one spot behind us. And if they lost, yeah, we'll talk. Appreciate it again. We'll talk playoffs here at the back end of the show for sure. Right now, we're talking about potential Evan Stewart, but could it become a bidding war now of this world of, these collectives that exist in the NIL spaces, and who has the most money behind them? Think about Jordan Addison a couple years ago when he entered the transfer portal from Pitt. I mean, I heard that he wanted like 2.5 to be able to come to Alabama. And who has that money? That was the USC at that time to link up with Caleb Williams. So can you imagine the amount of money? And that's why when you get into this space, Texas A&M has all the money in the world, but so does Texas. Oregon has a ton of money. So you
Yep.
start to look into this kind of this free agency world. But as you were mentioning, Coach, I mean, look at the wide receivers. And this is another thing. Would it make sense to come over here? And while you obviously can't turn down a talent like Evan Stewart if he is going to entertain, if he even does enter the transfer portal, look at right now. Here's the board of the wide receivers. So you lose Jermaine Burton. These are the guys coming back. Malik Benson, Sear, you have Ja'Cory Brooks. And then right here, this is the most important thing, is all these sophomores. right, Coach? I mean, look, talk about this wide receiver group.
For me, the sophomores is the thing. They all in the same class. I think he was in the same class with these kids. But I will be honest, Evan is probably, I see at least 2 to 3 receivers on there that Evan is better than right now, maybe more. I mean, we have a plethora of young talent
Hmm.
that's being developed, that's coming up, that's going to be awesome player. Shaz Preston is going to be an awesome receiver, believe it or
Hmm.
not.
Hmm.
Isaiah and Kobe and
Hmm.
Kendrick coming back for their third season, their junior season next year. These guys are going to be dogs. But man, I just couldn't turn Evan. If it was a possibility and it wasn't too astronomically crazy and the
Yep.
number and the NIL number, you know, we don't want to do that. If that's the case and we want to put on record, we don't know that's the case,
Hmm.
then he probably end up somewhere else. I don't see us breaking off no $2 million to a kid who's never been in the program. But if we can get him for, for a base price that's not too crazy,
Yeah.
yeah, I would definitely love to add him to this plethora of young receivers already.
Yeah, I mean, when you look to these wide receivers right here, I mean, what stands out to me is clearly those sophomores. I mean, that group has been they're not going to be good like down the road, like they're good right
Yeah,
now. And those guys are
exactly.
all coming back, and you kind of look at the roster management of the wide receiver position. You need big time players to rise up. And if you're a wide receiver, do you want to come here? Absolutely. Do you want to be a part of Alabama? Absolutely. Do you want to be a part of this brand? Absolutely. So, but can Alabama afford a player like this? I don't know if you put that in the absolutely category. You start to look to players that want to go for, where they can go and play on a high profile stage and also get
Mhm.
paid at this level. One program that wasn't mentioned in the initial offering was Auburn. And the reason I bring up Auburn is they have Yellowwood behind them, who literally has the most money out of anybody in the state of Alabama, who
Yeah.
is giving Auburn the money to do whatever they want. They've already been able to flip a couple players from Alabama, one player from Alabama, one player from Georgia. Of course, you're going to need a quarterback to do that. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to track. I just figured we start talking about this because everybody's already starting to talk about guys entering the transfer portal before they've even entered the transfer portal, and it's kind of like, you don't want to do that because you're like, man, what if this guy just stays, right?
Yeah.
But so many people are already talking about it. And I just saw earlier today as well, this morning before I jumped on the show, Will Rogers, the quarterback at Mississippi State, is expected to enter the NCAA transfer portal as well. Think about this. The guy's played over 40 games, and he has 12,000 yards passing entering the NCAA, or expected to enter the NCAA transfer portal. And this is from this was reported by Matt Zenitz, who now works for 24/7 Sports. This is like the king of breaking the transfer portal news. So it's not like we're just making this stuff up. I mean, these
Yeah.
guys are, have this scoop ahead of time. And I mean, Will Rogers, I mean, I was thinking like he must have a COVID year to come back. I mean, your initial thoughts on even like Will Rogers, not that he would come to Bama, but I mean, look
Yeah.
at that. I mean, he wants to play at a higher profile program. And honestly, Mississippi State probably doesn't deserve someone like him. I mean, Will Rogers he's a talented quarterback.
Man, I'll say this. When you look around the landscape, if the Will Rogers transport noodles news is not, if this doesn't tell you right off that college football is changing, has changed, is changed,
Hmm.
going to change, these kids want to play at high profile universities. The
Hmm.
money is now being legally thrown around through
Yep.
collectives. These kids want a better opportunity. So it almost doesn't even matter if the kid has been in your program 2, 3 years and started. I think you said this guy started 40 games, 30, 40 games,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
I
Hmm.
mean, that is I don't think I've ever heard of a kid staying in a program that long and then transferring out.
Yeah.
So that shows you the landscape of what college football is. But at the same time, that does have to prepare these universities for to get their ducks in a row.
Hmm.
Is it loyalty? Is it NIL? Is the kid just want a better place to play his last year?
Hmm.
Maybe a smidgen of all three. But that does show you the landscape of where we're at in college football. And I think you have to pick up and roll with it instead of fight it.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is Will Rogers right here. This is his entire stats on the board that he's played. It's amazing that he can still play another year. I guess it's because of the COVID year, right? I mean, you see, he comes in 2020, so clearly that's
Hmm.
it. And he's played in 43 total games. He has 12,000 yards, 94 total touchdowns. I mean, these are big time numbers. And I think that, I mean, I think Hattie May inside the comment box said that Auburn is going after him or interested in. Why wouldn't you be? I'm sure a ton of but him going to Hugh Freeze, and that's what I'm saying is like, I have no idea if Auburn's even, in the mix. If Evan Stewart, I don't know two things. I don't know if Evan Stewart's going to jump into the transfer portal, but I do know this: Auburn needs elite playmakers on offense. They need a quarterback. If Will Rogers wants to enter and Evan Stewart wants to enter and they want to play in the SEC and there's a program that needs it, and that's Auburn, right? Auburn needs a quarterback and Auburn needs elite weapons. So that's kind of a good segue to go into this next topic, Coach. We have Alabama and Auburn. And I know you've talked about this a couple times this week with the coaches, but your thoughts on this upcoming matchup with Alabama and Auburn, kind of keys to the game, because right now, as it sits, Alabama is a 14-point favorite, or 14 and a half, whatever. Everybody expecting Alabama just to completely waltz over Auburn, which they probably will. I mean, they should. But I was asking you in the pre-show, does it hurt Alabama that New Mexico State, a good New Mexico State team, it wasn't like they won the last Hail Mary or whatever, like they won 31-10 convincingly, but does that hurt Alabama for whatever the score total is this weekend?
I think it does, and I'll tell you why. New Mexico State is a physical team. They're a physical team. They got up to play Auburn. You have to give those guys every single credit that they deserve, right? But the committee, and this committee has proved this over the last couple of weeks, they're going to look for every little reason to penalize the teams that they want to penalize. It justifies leaving this team out or that team out. They'll use every criteria they possibly can outside of their own rules that they set. So I don't see how it could help us with New Mexico State beating Auburn. Now we're supposed to beat them, right? We're supposed to beat them, but now you better beat them.
Yeah.
Now you better beat them, right? So the thing about it is, I think Coach Saban, in my mind, in my humble opinion, would have loved for Auburn to be on a little win streak right here.
100%.
They had just came off of 3-game SEC winning streak. It would be nothing better for us to go into the Iron Bowl with Auburn on this little hot streak.
Yes.
Now that these guys have lost to New Mexico State, I mean, it could be anybody that they lost to. Now the pressure is on us, just a smidgen, to go out and perform. Now you have to perform.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I think no matter what the score is, now it's going to be a comparative scoring with New Mexico State. You're going to be like, New Mexico State won by 21 points. So if you didn't beat Auburn by 21 points, you don't. So you have to almost beat them like 60-0, which probably isn't going to happen. Like, this is a rivalry game. They've been practicing for forever to upset Nick Saban, and if there's a win that you need to really elevate your program, to get your program on the map right now, and to get a potential Evan Stewart or a Will Rogers to start to look your direction at Auburn and kind of get everyone fired up, this is what you do, because all eyes are focused on Jordan-Hare Stadium. And this would be a great opportunity for Hugh Freeze to be like, look, I know my initial season didn't go the way you wanted it to, but I beat Alabama. And I got the notoriety. I bounced back. I just need weapons. So I got money. I need weapons. Come to Jordan-Hare, come to Auburn, and let's build something. Because I have proven now that I have beat Nick Saban 3 times in 6 tries, right? So this is a monumental game for Hugh Freeze, and he could completely derail Alabama. But on top of that, he has an opportunity to start building his empire with unlimited funds. There's like Texas A&M, there's Texas, and honestly, there's probably Oregon, Auburn, and USC who have the most money, which is crazy because you're like, well, where's Alabama up in that? Well, they're trying to, get things going. You see them doing different things to add money to, the brand and the program overall. I mean, the tweets that they, tweeted out about watching a movie on Amazon Prime, you think that was just, an accidental tweet? Those are advertisements that got paid from Amazon. Though they're doing different things. They're selling a vodka. They have Alabama that you want to become like a fan funder of, because they need more money to compete with these other programs that quite simply have more money. And Coach Saban has been talking about this, the competitive imbalance that it is going to create. Because does Alabama have money? Absolutely. Go walk to the campus. I'll show you. Like, the money's crazy, but there's a whole other threshold of not millionaires, billionaires that are donating to these other programs. Think about this. Texas A&M wanted to get rid of Jimbo Fisher. They got together $150 million. And they bought out a coach for $76 million. Before that, Auburn was able to come up with $18 million to get out Gus Malzahn, who, by the way, I mean, beat Nick Saban a couple times. So now that Yellowwood is behind Auburn, I think it's going to be really interesting to see just how much pull Hugh Freeze can do. And if he's able to beat Alabama or play them close or whatever it is, he's just going to kind of add more to that fire.
I'll tell you this, Cal. I would tell any fan, please be cautious. I know we saw the New Mexico State game. We see how we're playing. Man, listen, please be cautious of thinking we're just going to go in and roll this team. We should on paper, right? We should, based off how we're playing, based off how they're playing. But I would tell anybody from experience in playing in rivalry games in college, brother, nothing else matters. Every time you see a young player that missed a tackle or had a bad play or had that I don't care attitude, they won't have it this game. Don't fall for that, oh, my team's in a fog. Don't fall for that. Do not fall for that. I think that's what Coach Saban is preaching to the team. Do not fall for this, oh, woe is me, Auburn. Those guys are going to be on 10 come Saturday. Trust me. And they will be ready to play Alabama tooth and nail. We have to have great eye discipline on defense because Hugh Freeze will pull out the bathroom sink and throw it at you. We have to be very, 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 very consistent on third down. So do not fall for the woe is me Auburn going into this rivalry game against Alabama.
Coach, I wanted to kind of switch gears now and talk about some of these playoff rankings and a lot of this stuff kind of circulating. But I was thinking about this particular fact. Okay, so a lot of people feel that the Pac-12 is getting a lot of notoriety, and rightfully so. We've talked about the fact again and again that Oregon and Washington are ranked over Alabama, and so is Texas. And a lot of people keep going back to the beginning of the season when Alabama lost to Texas. Okay, so I get it. When I was thinking about this last night, and they're like, well, Oregon has wins over USC, Utah. Each of those teams are not ranked in the top 25 anymore. Exactly. And they are able so they don't have a win over a top 25 team. But I think they got propelled and when they beat Colorado, who was ranked within the top 25, right? And so, I mean, the world of college football, let me ask everybody in the comment box and you too, Coach Shawn. Remember, there was a time I wasn't on the bandwagon. I don't know if you were, Coach. I was liking what was going on with Coach Prime because it's fun to watch. It's entertainment. And I think his message and his delivery, I'm cool with it. Honestly, I like it. It's different.
Yeah.
But I've covered Colorado before. Literally, I had a business that operated in Boulder. I know how hard it is to win football games over there because the Flatirons are right there and there's other things to do in the state of Colorado than watch college football. That's just how it is. Plus, you have all these pro teams that are killing it. But there was a time early in the season when people thought that Colorado football was good, that Colorado football was back, that Coach Prime was going to take over whatever and all this stuff, right? Let me ask you this. Was there a time, honestly, that people thought that Colorado was good in week 2 or week 3?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's several people that knew that, the hype was around it and everything. But those of us that know football, we understood what he was doing was not really, I hate to say it wasn't really to win, right? It was to promote Colorado.
Okay. But let me get to this, Coach. They were ranked number 19. Okay.
Yeah.
By the end of September, they were ranked number 19. So were they a contender or were they a pretender? They were a giant contender. But guess who benefited from that victory? Oregon, 100%. And Oregon beat Colorado 42-6. And what I'm saying is, at that point in time, nobody knew about the teams. Nobody knew about the rankings. And think about how much teams have transformed since that point in time up until now. Colorado has now won 4 games on the season. They're not even going to go to a bowl game. So if we're ranking teams based on the overall season, it's complete horse crap because there was a time where this committee and everybody else thought that Colorado was good. It's the same point of now with Alabama. Like the team right now of Alabama, you thought that Colorado, not you, I'm saying there was a portion of people who thought, Alabama was vulnerable. You could beat this Alabama team. This Alabama team isn't what they're going to do. Alabama, look how they have trended. They're in a different stratosphere. Look how Colorado has trended. So my point is rank the teams according to like where they are right now in this point in time.
I got one better for you. Oregon, if that's true, what you like to your credit, Kyle, outside of Washington, Oregon to this date hasn't played a ranked team on their schedule.
Thank you.
Not
But they're
one.
going to be like, well, Utah was ranked. Well, USC was ranked. Well, so was Colorado.
Exactly. So they're bloviating off of this. They're getting full and fat off of these preseason week 2, whatever rankings of teams who everybody thought was going to be great, and
Yes.
they weren't great.
Yep.
They weren't great, and they've stayed there. And that alone tells you the direction of the committee.
Mm-hmm.
It tells you what they're going to use and what ammunition they're going to use to prove their points.
Mm-hmm.
Colorado is terrible right now, right? They were terrible then. They just got up for that game. He did a great job of promoting his school, and everybody fell for it. That's fine, right? But Oregon is still reaping those rewards by staying
Yes.
that high, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's sickening, man. It's sickening. I have a scenario I'm gonna go over with you before we get off that I think could happen, and I think it'll help us out greatly.
All right, so check this out, okay? And I showed this yesterday, and I don't like to bring this up, but I mean, this is something that's out there, so I'm gonna bring it up right now. The All-State predictor, it's a computer program, and it's by ESPN. It shows you different scenarios if Alabama wins out. So if Alabama wins out, that means beats Auburn, and then they beat Georgia in the SEC title game. And look, nobody is saying that Alabama is going to waltz over even Auburn or Georgia. The resume that Georgia has right now and how they're playing, we get it. Like, this is the hot. Georgia is number one for sure. They're like what they've done the last 3 games, how their quarterback is playing with Brock Bowers back. That is the team to beat. Everybody knows that. I'm just saying, if Alabama, and this is a computer program that a lot of people like to look at, if Alabama is able to beat Georgia, this is what the poll is saying. This is what the program is saying, that Alabama still, even if they win the SEC title, that they only have a 32% chance to make the playoffs. So I started thinking about it, and then I pulled up Georgia's. No, check out Georgia's. If Georgia loses the SEC title game, they have a 76% chance to make the playoffs. So what that is telling me, as of right now, Georgia is automatically already in the playoffs.
Yeah, you you might be right. I talked to the guys Monday, and I said the only way I think Alabama will make these playoffs. And again, to Kyle's credit, we're saying if we win against Auburn and if we go in and defeat a great task in Georgia, those are 2 really big ifs, especially the second one, right? So if we're entertaining it, I think for me, they have proven they're not going to allow us to jump Texas. They're just not. We had to jump Texas. We had much better competition, much better performances. They're not going to let us jump Texas, guys. It's just not going to happen if Texas keeps on winning. Here's a scenario that we could get in, and I think this could easily happen. I went over this with Smook and Jarek on our show. We don't need for Oregon to lose. We need for Washington. We don't need for Washington to lose. We need for Washington to defeat Oregon. Why do I say that? They told us last year we couldn't get in the playoffs with 2 losses. That's all we heard. Well, Bama, you got 2 losses. Okay, this will be Oregon's second loss to the same team, right? They're done. They're done after that. Washington go ahead and beat Oregon. They're out of here. That's one spot. Okay, Ohio State needs to beat Michigan. Michigan's schedule has been susceptible all season,
100%.
Right? If Ohio State beats Michigan, Michigan doesn't have a leg to stand on as far as still being in front of Alabama with that 1 loss. That's another team gone. We need for Florida to beat Florida State, not Louisville, Florida. Because if Louisville beats Florida State, then they're the same record as us, and they're an ACC champ. They could argue, well, maybe we should be. So we need for Florida to beat Florida State. They're done. That'll leave you with number 1 Ohio State, number 2 Washington State. Washington. Number 3 Texas, and number 4 Alabama. If Washington beats Oregon, Florida State loses, and Ohio State wins the Big Ten, Alabama will be in the playoff. Doesn't matter what happens with as far as if we beat Georgia. We'll definitely be the number 4 team in that scenario. Now, that's a lot of ifs, but it could definitely happen.
Yeah, I mean, and when you look to who the teams are playing this weekend and how things are shaking out, you have Michigan taking on Ohio State, uh, I mean, who knows how that game's going to go? I mean,
Yeah.
Michigan right now is a 3-point favorite. The game is at the Big House. A lot of things going on with Michigan. They're playing for Jim Harbaugh because he's not going to be on the sidelines. You also have Texas taking on Texas Tech. That game is in Austin, where Texas is, I think, a 13.5-point favorite. But again, Texas Tech can score, points in bunches. You
Yeah.
have Oregon, who is taking on Oregon State. I just looked at the line. It's Oregon up by, I think, 13.5 in that game,
Mhm.
which is probably way too high because Oregon State has a pretty good defense, but I think that offense has just been rolling for Oregon to their credit. And then you have Washington taking on Washington State. Georgia is playing their kind of back end cupcake, which is Georgia Tech. Alabama taking on Auburn, and then Florida State taking on Florida in a game where two backup quarterbacks are playing each other.
Yeah.
Coach, I talk about this, all the time. When you look to how they're ranking these teams and what's going on, do you think? How do you rank Florida State? Because now that they don't have Jordan Travis, clearly you can't penalize the whole team, but
Yeah.
they're a different team without him, and people are going to be like, well, the backup is better than Jordan Travis or whatever. But would this backup quarterback still be making the plays, that Jordan Travis made all season? I mean, Vegas is cutthroat. They're like, look, the week before they had like, I don't know, plus 800 odds to win the title. Now they have plus 33. So Vegas isn't scared to just be like, nope, they're gone.
Yeah.
But how do you rank a team like Florida State? And, what are we watching this weekend? Because what was concerning was the fact that the committee said after the Florida State game that they valued the fact that not only they were like, we don't care that they were down 13-0. We cared that they scored 58 points in a row. I'm like, of course, it's North Alabama.
Yeah. So for me, I say keep them right where they're at until they lose. This way, it'll be no justification. It'll be no excuses. We know they lost their starting quarterback, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
still undefeated. They
Mm-hmm.
still lost. They did come back and score all these points against North
Mm-hmm.
Alabama. So how about we keep them right there until they lose? I do believe Florida can win this game. It's a
Mm-hmm.
rivalry game. It's in Gainesville, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's
I
at the
do.
Swamp. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, two backup quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
The game is right there for Florida to take. Now,
Mm-hmm.
Florida, they're very Jekyll and Hyde. They look pretty good at some points, and they look absolutely terrible at others. So the game is there for Florida to win. If Florida wins this game, Florida State's done. It's
Mm-hmm.
over. They're looking for every reason to make them done right now, as it is. So for me, keep them where they're at until they lose. They're either going to lose to Louisville or Florida State. Florida. They're not going to beat both of those teams with a backup quarterback. I don't believe.
Mm-hmm. Now, another scenario, and John is asking this inside the comment box. He's kind of talking about the Alabama versus Texas scenario. If Alabama is able to win out the SEC title and Texas is to win out, that's going to pose like a very difficult challenge for the committee in terms of the win that Texas has over Alabama and the fact that you also have Georgia as a one-loss team.
Mm-hmm.
In the resume that Georgia has, and we've shown that resume a few times that Georgia has. And I'll bring up, before we bring up Georgia's, we'll bring up Texas and look at the Texas overall resume. And they do have a good strength of schedule. But overall, I mean, outside of they're just completely living off that Alabama victory.
5 games.
You see what I'm saying, Coach?
Yeah, I do. I
Look,
do.
the 9-1 record, 7-1 in Big 12,
Mhm.
number 30 scoring offense. They beat Bama, but they lost to number 13 Oklahoma. Other than that, they don't have another top 25 win. They do have a good strength of schedule from Power Guru. This is their first 10-win season. But this team, I mean, they're living off that Bama win. And it's kind of crazy to think about it. And just
Yeah.
like I was saying earlier in the show, it's like Bama could potentially have been knocked out of the playoffs in week 2.
Mm-hmm. The sad thing about that, Kyle, is the double negative in this whole thing with Texas is the Alabama win is the best win in the country, right? And the more we win, the better it makes Texas look,
Yep.
right?
100%.
That's why I don't think we're going to jump them guys. I know we win the SEC. And,
That's a great point, because if
yeah,
Bama beats Georgia, then
it makes
Texas is
Texas
going to
look
be
great.
like,
That's the
we
whole
beat
fact.
Georgia too. We
That's the
beat
whole
Georgia.
fact. The head-to-head has got to matter, guys. It
Mhm.
sucks, I know it. But if we had won this game, we would be still saying, well, look, I take it back to the Ole Miss game when Ole Miss played Georgia. If Ole Miss had beaten Georgia in another universe, And they jumped us. They were
Mhm.
at 9, we were at 8. The first thing we would have been saying as Bama fans is, wait, pump the brakes. They beat Georgia, cool, but we beat them. That's
Mhm.
the first thing we would have been saying. So the head-to-head has got to matter, guys.
Mhm.
I'm a Bama fan to the fullest, but I'm of the mindset that I don't think they're going to let us jump Texas. The more we win, the more it strengthens Texas.
Yeah, it really does. Gavin with the super chat. Appreciate you, man. Thanks, Gavin. It's good to link up with you. He's got a what's up, Kyle and Shawn. One thing people haven't said is that Missouri is one spot behind Alabama, and they lost to LSU by 10 at home, a team we beat by 14. People have been high on Missouri for sure. LSU has been kind of a common denominator for a lot of teams because FSU beat LSU. Missouri, and LSU went at it. It seems like LSU's probably played. It seems like they played everybody.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I mean, I kind of look at the SEC being ranked, and people are like the SEC bias. Well, you do have several teams ranked within the top 15 inside the SEC, right? You have Georgia at number 1, Bama at number 8, Missouri. You have Ole Miss in there, and LSU and Tennessee is in there as well. Alabama beat 3 of those teams, and when you look to Alabama's resume, it's such a great resume. Other than the fact that they lost to Texas, but other than
Yeah.
that, like the overall play of this team. I mean, like this is a great resume, and I wasn't trying to boost it or anything. This resume says enough. I mean, can you imagine add defeating number 1 Georgia to this resume? The SEC champ to this resume. Add to the fact that it'll be an 11-game win streak. Add to the fact that it would be 9-0 in SEC play.
I
Right,
tell
like
you,
those would be added to this resume.
yeah, that man, that's a full plate right there, man. And the committee is going to have one hell of a decision to make, man, because I mean, good Lord, man, Georgia's a 2-time defending champion. If God bless us to beat those guys, they could easily have a legitimate case. Like, look, man, we only have one loss. We're still one of the 4 best
Hell
teams.
yeah, hell
And
yeah.
this brings you back to that question that I asked last year when they let TCU in with their 1 loss over Bama with our 2 losses.
Mm-hmm.
This is the question that everybody asked that nobody's ever going to get an answer for, to guys,
Yep.
because they can manipulate how they want it by not answering this question. What's up, JV and Smith?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the 4 best teams or is it the 4 most deserving teams? If they don't ever answer that question, they don't ever have to signify which teams they put in.
Mm-hmm.
If it's 4 best teams, Alabama should have been in the playoffs last year.
For
If
sure.
it's the 4 best, right?
Mm-hmm.
All conferences are not created equal. We had 2 losses, they had 1. So what? We beat your Big 12 champion, the same team that beat you, TCU.
Yeah.
We played Kansas State and smacked them around.
Mm-hmm.
So why couldn't we get in? Well, they deserve to get in.
Yeah.
Okay, is it the most deserving or is it the 4 best teams? This committee's going to have a decision on their hands,
Mm-hmm.
especially if we can be fortunate enough to win the SEC.
Coach, I wanted to ask you about a couple things. Number one is about Tommy Rees, because just this week he was nominated as a Broyles Award finalist, and we're talking about this week. And while I think that is great, and I think that he has transformed this offense, and I think they are trending in the right words. Again, like I always bring this up, but the 49ers played last night and they were able to beat the Seahawks, and it's amazing how they're able to distribute the football to everybody. And I would Alabama, the reason I say that is because Alabama has those same type of weapons at the college level, right? You have the Kendrick Law, you have the Isaiah Bond, you have the Amari Niblack, you have the Robbie Oots is your Kyle Juszczyk, right? So you have these different elements. The only thing that Alabama has, different is the fact that Jalen Milroe is a complete monster. And I was saying this yesterday, he hasn't really gone monster mode yet. And I think in time he's going to get, and once he goes monster mode, it's done, because there's nobody that can stop him, right? Like I think if he goes monster mode, nobody will be able to stop him. That's why I keep saying they won't lose another football game if he's unleashed at that level, which he hasn't been. But Tommy Rees has done a great job. Let's first talk about Tommy Rees and the job that he's done from the beginning of the season to now, what you've seen that has changed. And then I want to ask you about Kevin Steele, because if there's one coach that has really changed the program in an immediate way, in a way that Alabama could potentially even win a championship, I feel it's more kind of because of Kevin Steele's defense. But first, tell me your thoughts about Tommy Rees, how you've seen this offense transform from week 2, week 3 up into now.
Shout out to above average Joe. I appreciate you, brother. That's a great name. Um, as far as Tommy Rees, I think Tommy Rees has done exactly what all the good coordinators do. They come in, they find their players, they don't try to fit square pegs in the round holes. It seems like somewhere between the bye week, we actually sat down and asked Milroe, listen, pick me about 10 good plays that you're comfortable with. And we'll run those things out of different formations. We'll beat them to death until they stop them. Because something clicked in that bye week.
Mm-hmm.
Something clicked in that bye week, man. And we hadn't looked the same since before.
Yeah.
Tommy Rees has had great progression. He understands now that the pre-snap motion is really where is our jackpot, right? And we use it to our advantages. The running and the using of Jalen Milroe's feet has really opened things up. We scored a lot of
Mhm.
points against Kentucky because their safeties were
Yeah.
put in a dilemma. Do I come
Mhm.
up and defend his feet?
Mhm.
And they leave wide receivers running right behind them. So
Mhm.
that aspect and Tommy Rees really using that has really, really, really made our offense flourish. So
Mhm.
you have to give Tommy all the credit. Um, this Alabama team, and I'm gonna be careful with my words, this Alabama team is not individually manned as talented as some of the past Alabama teams. As a whole, when you look at each individuals and you put them collectively together,
Mhm.
I don't think there's a lot of Devontae Smiths, Jalen Waddles, or Jerry Judy's on this team,
Mhm.
but I do believe there's very solid talent. And this guy has really, really, really put everybody in position to be exploited. Kendrick Law, getting him the ball on jet sweeps,
Mhm.
targeting Isaiah Bond behind the line of scrimmage, getting him into space, running the ball on third and short, not spreading this out, making Jalen Milroe read too
Mhm.
much, using his legs. All those things have got to go to Tommy Rees, and I got none but credit for him. Did you want me to go right into the Kevin Steele?
Well, I think I want to. I mean, I would like to say this about Tommy Rees. I think
Yeah,
that if anything with Tommy Rees, I certainly agree. I think he's transformed. And I think he's more comfortable because, look, Notre Dame is like a really nice. It's like a nice. What type of car would it be? It'd be like a nice. I don't know, like a some sort of a Toyota. What is it? Sequoia, right? Like it's pretty
yeah,
nice and it's a family car and it's serviceable. That's what it was like at Notre Dame. Like, yeah, it's a nice car, but you come over here, you got like a Bugatti. Like the keys are. It's a completely different atmosphere. And I think from him, like all these weapons and being able to go, 5 million miles an hour. I mean, he's a completely different. Jalen
mhm,
Milroe is the best guy he's ever been around 1,000,000%. And I think he was probably overwhelmed at first, kind of that pressure. And he's also aggressive. He's a younger coach. So you get the keys to a car like this, it's a different level. And having all these different elements, distributing the football around and playing at this high of a level. But he's grown up. If anything, if he doesn't win this award or whatever, who cares? What we
yeah,
want to see from him is growth and being able to take that over into the playoffs, into next year, into his recruiting philosophy and how he continues to design this offense around Jalen Milroe. It's the Alabama offense, but you have the best player in college football. I get it. Like Jalen is not a finished product, but the more that you're able to add to him and the weapons around him, he's going to be unstoppable. Honestly, I mean, this guy is completely different than Jalen Hurts, than Tua, than Mac in different ways. And to his credit, like he brings a lot of different elements to his game that are just truly dynamic that we haven't seen at Alabama, from any of those other quarterbacks, which is fine. So I think in Tommy Rees has just grown up, is my point. Now with Kevin Steele, this guy, I mean, who knows? Maybe they even asked him. They're like, "Are you interested in this award?" He's like, "Hell no, I don't know." Like because
yeah,
I say that because it just doesn't seem like he gives a hoot about anything other than just coaching football. And this guy has just really brought back that Alabama defense that people are really excited about.
mhm.
But first, before I ask you about Kevin Steele, we got a couple of super chats to go through. Wookie saying, "Good morning, fellas. I hope we handle Auburn easily. That way we can smack Georgia down and shut my neighbor up." He's getting bad as a Tennessee fan. Roll Tide. Well, we appreciate your support. And we were talking about that earlier. While Alabama is the heavy favorite in all the aspects, it's just like that 4 quarters of football and that consistency, I think, is what people want to see from Alabama mostly. And then John with the $20 spot. Thank you very much for watching this morning. We hope you had a fantastic Thanksgiving. Thanks for supporting Coach Shawn and myself right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Back to Kevin Steele, your take on him, because it and talk about the defense last year to this year. I mean, has it really been? To me, it's been night and day.
Yeah,
That's the biggest difference, right? Bryce was a different quarterback than Jalen Milroe and, the offensive components or whatever, but the defense seems like I'm always confident in Alabama's defense. With Pete Golding, you were kind of like what's going to happen? Like, have you seen that big of a difference as well, Coach?
Man, yes. The scheme, what we do on third down. To me, the biggest difference, if you want to pinpoint one thing outside of us being more aggressive in rushing and blitzing, if you want to pinpoint one thing on this defense, is how we play on third down. Last year, Pete Golding, all he did was drop 8 on third down, even against teams with not so good quarterbacks. It's almost like he was trying to compensate to
Mm-hmm.
not get beat. Let's just play it safe and not get beat.
Mm-hmm.
That was his philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Steele is like, the hell with that. I'm coming to get you.
Yeah.
We blitzing, we playing man on the outside, we coming to get you. I think if Will Anderson had played in this style defense, I think Will could have had even more sacks.
Mm-hmm.
I really believe that. Kevin Steele is aggressive. He reminds me a lot of Jeremy Pruitt style.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of how Georgia's scheme is played. Really, really aggressive. The linebacker play, the middle linebacker play is night and day.
Yes.
Night and day.
Do
I
you think
appreciate
that's
you
more
doing
of
it, Lexi.
like a personnel with Deontay Lawson and Jahad Campbell just being better than Henry Toto and Jalen Moody, or do you think it's the coaching?
It's the coaching. It is the freaking coaching,
Mm.
man. If you look at the scheme, what the linebackers do now, they feel now. Every once in a while, we'll have a number 10 moment. I'll just say number 10. I won't use the young man name. We have a number 10 moment with Trez Marshall
Uh-huh.
on filling gaps. But if you look at the scheme, the aggressiveness, the eye control, the eye discipline,
Mm.
how
Mm.
we play on the back end, man, it is completely different. Third down, we're not dropping 8 anymore unless it's a situational type football thing. We're trying to pattern match or some of that nature.
Mhm.
We are aggressive. Put it in the cornerback's hands. Let Terrion play Terrion. Let Kool-Aid be Kool-Aid. And
Mhm.
let's play aggressive up front. We didn't do that a lot last year.
Mhm.
We did not do that a lot last year. There were so many games, guys. The Tennessee one comes to mind where we just sat back and let these guys pick us apart
Mhm.
and just tried to play coverage and just nice and safe. And it got us beat. It
Mhm.
got us beat.
Mhm.
Right now, Kevin Steele is aggressive and he's instilling that mentality into the defense. You will not sit back there and have all day to throw the ball. We will not play zone coverage all day and just let you pick us apart underneath all day.
Mhm.
If you're going to beat us, you're going to have to beat us. We're going to live with it and die with it.
Mhm. Yeah, I appreciate the comments on inside the comment box. First of all, for the comments for Coach. I mean, he does such a great job, and Coach Shawn has been a great asset. Coach, we're happy that you're here, man. You do such a great job. So
Thank
just
you.
telling you
I
that, man,
appreciate you
because
guys.
and people see it inside the comment box as well. Gavin back with another super chat. He said, "You guys know since bye week, our offense is 1 yards per game and points scored per game." I don't. You guys know since the bye week, our offense is in 1 yards per game points. Huh. I have to look at that
I
again,
remember one.
Gavin. And in third down percentage. One of the stats that stands out for me is kind of the second half adjustments for this team. And I think that's kind of where they get their style points from. Coach, and kind of as we get kind of towards the back end of the show, this particular team, it seems like they've had the most growth out of any of these other teams that we've seen in the past,
Yep.
and that's what is so hard to I think if you followed Alabama or if you're an Alabama football fan, that is what's so painstaking is like this team is playing at such a high level. But the way that they started off the season, is like we've never seen a team, in my opinion, have so much growth. And that kind of brings me to my next thing is about Coach Saban and the job that he has done overall this year. We've talked about the OC, we've talked about the DC, but the overall job that Coach Saban has done has really been remarkable. I mean, and we've talked about this maybe a time or two, but I mean, Coach is living his best life. I mean, he's
Yeah.
loving to get to coach this team because he's really had to do a lot of coaching to turn a lot of these sophomores into juniors or whatever and kind of prove those naysayers wrong.
I'll tell you this, man, and I want everybody in the chat to ask themselves this question. And this is go for work, this goes for sports, anything that you excel at in life, being a father, being a mother, whatever it is, being a brother. When do you do it the best? When do you coach the best? When do you be the best father? When do you be the best athlete? When adversity hits. When adversity hits. You don't even really know how good you are until something bad happens.
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
This team faced probably more adversity in the beginning of the season
Mhm.
with that USF game after the Texas game than any Bama team in recent memory,
Mhm.
right? Because after that USF game, I was biting my nails like, what in the
Mhm.
world is going on? We just went out here and had a fight with USF. I think the world was caving in on Alabama, and I can't imagine what those student athletes were going through. So to face that adversity, for Coach Saban to come in and be the Coach Saban of old and coach them guys and build them up from ground up and redevelop and reshape this team, you got to give him the credit, man. You got to give that whole entire staff,
Mhm.
T. Rob, all these guys did an absolute awesome job. They faced some hella adversity and came through, developed, and now look at the finished product right now. We're playing the best in the country, if you ask me. And I don't care what a committee says. I don't care what another coach says. There's not a team out there that want to see those crimson jerseys on the other side of the field right now.
Yeah, and Gavin, he's saying, you guys know since the bye week, the offense is number one in yards per game and points scored per game. That's pretty amazing. And then as well as third down conversions as well. So that kind of continue in like, are those stats looked at by the committee in that room, like the transformational stats? Because like I'm saying, like who is trending up and who is trending down? It's like, look, Texas has had a great run, the best season since what 2009 or whatever, and their win against Alabama, but are they
Mhm.
trending the right way? And they're going to be under the microscope as well against Texas Tech. I just think that once again, Alabama is held to a different standard because I said this before, and I'm not going to say it again. If Alabama was trailing Chattanooga by 13 points, it'd be this
Oh my
massive
God.
deal. Saban
National
would
headlines.
national headlines, and they came
Yeah.
back to win 58 to whatever. I just, it's unfair that Alabama is being held to that standard, or even if Georgia was held to that
Yep.
standard, or I don't know, Michigan barely survives Maryland,
Maryland.
and we're not
Mhm.
talking about that.
Nobody's even
They
talking
won by
about that.
7. And Talia had
Yep.
an opportunity late in that game, and we don't talk about that. They're like,
Yep.
the Michigan won. It's America's team, right? We don't talk about the fact that Rutgers was ahead of Ohio State just a couple weeks ago. So those are a couple of headlines that I guess you kind of miss at. Whatever. But yeah, we got the Iron Bowl on Saturday. Coach, any final thoughts when you look to this Iron Bowl, or kind of things that you might be watching for? For me, I think it's kind of the secondary because of the fact that you have Devontae Smith back in the rotation.
Yeah.
So how is he going to be added with the rotation being that Jalen Key is also healthy? Having those quality players in the secondary is really important. Not to say that Auburn is going to try to throw the ball all over the field, but
Yeah.
the following week you're going to deal with a team that has a lot of weapons in different components. So the more secondary players you have, the better. And I want to kind of spotlight Devontae Smith and see how he moves when he's out in space. And I want to see just continued play from Alabama's offense, and most importantly from the special teams as well. I think the punt returner is something. Is it going to be Caleb Downs? Is it going to be a true
Yeah.
freshman returning punts in the Iron Bowl in place of Kool-Aid? And I want to see just continued solid play from this offense and improved play from the offensive line. What about you going into the Iron Bowl?
For me, I have two things that I want to see, two main things. And this is this like this for me every game, but especially this Auburn game. On offense, I want to know, can we extend drives on third down? That is how you score points.
Mm-hmm.
You have to stay on the field on third down on offense and get the hell off of it on
Mm-hmm.
defense on
Mm-hmm.
third down. For
Mm-hmm.
me, it's eye discipline with the middle linebackers. Hugh Freeze runs a very, very, very similar offense to Gus Malzahn. Very, very similar, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of quarterback runs, a lot of misdirectional things to make your eyeballs go in the wrong place. Then they pop one on us. A lot of play action and try to hit us over the middle. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of seam routes to whatever tight end or whatever receiver that's playing the slot or the tight end spot. So eye discipline on defense and staying on the field, extending drives on third down. If we do both of those, guys, we should win this game hands down.
Mm-hmm.
Stay on the field on third down. Don't come off of it. That keeps us scoring touchdowns. And on third down on defense, we got to find a way to get off the field,
Mm-hmm.
make them punt. We'll win this game.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff, Coach. Before we go, man, you have a good Thanksgiving yesterday with your family?
Man, blessed. I can't even complain. It's been a lot. You look around the world, man, and a lot of people are doing a lot worse than me. I'm doing very, very well. My grandmother used to say, Don't complain because people don't want to hear it anyway. So I'm blessed beyond favor, better than I deserve. Yes,
Good,
sir.
Coach. Good. I'm glad you had a really nice Thanksgiving, and I hope you guys did too out there, wherever you're watching from. We really appreciate you guys being here. Thank you very much to everybody that continues to support the channel. We got tons of coverage coming your way. Stay tuned for the coaches on the post game show following the Iron Bowl, and of course, I won't be at the Iron Bowl, but I'll be here with you. So maybe I'll pop on the post game show as well. Coming to you from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Coaches up in beautiful Huntsville. By the way, if you haven't been to Huntsville, check out Huntsville. I
Yeah.
haven't been up there. Huntsville is nice. That
Yeah.
whole downtown area that you have, there's some
Yes.
really nice restaurants up there. Man, it's booming, man.
Listen, all you guys Google Bridge Street, Google
Bridge Street.
Providence,
Uh-huh.
Google Town Madison. We
Yeah.
have a new baseball team up
Yeah.
here called the Rocket City Trash Pandas.
Mhm.
You got a Margaritaville coming.
Yep.
Huntsville's booming. The downtown area is crazy.
Yeah.
Shout out to Travelpreneur Sports home team right there. I appreciate you guys, man. Huntsville's great. It's a lot of people here, a lot of college atmospheres here,
Yeah.
a lot of youth here, a lot of businesses here, a
Heck
lot
yeah.
of money up here, a lot of
Sure.
opportunity. So check us out.
Yeah, absolutely. Huntsville definitely on the map for sure.
Yeah.
Certainly rising for the state of Alabama. Good to see it. All right, Coach Shawn. Well, we appreciate you more than you know. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Friday. Hope you guys have a great Friday, and we will catch you soon on College Football Saturday right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe, and thank you very much for supporting the channel. We will catch up with you guys soon.
Roll Tide.